I think that people are under the assumption that for some reason you are able to run your engine wide open throttle all the time, which is just unrealistic. I mean, I've looked at hundreds of downloads, and literally, I would say the majority, if not 90% of them, at least 50% of the RPMs are below 3,000 RPM.
This clip is brought to you by PartsView.com. Check them out using the link and discount codes in the description below to save money on your boat and engine parts.
We're talking about the runnability of your engine and how long can you run at what RPMs. Most people, by and large, when they run your boat, when you take into account, at the ramp time, idle time, troll time, bottom fish time, putzing around the canals time, no wake zones, trolling, going to your spots, stuff like that. Usually after hundreds of downloads that I've looked at, usually what I see is that people run their engine wide open throttle less than 20% of the time. So out of, let's say, an engine that has 1,000 hours, just to make it easy, the RPM at wide open throttle is generally less than 20 to 30% of that 1,000 hours on the engine. And that is why everybody always tells you to run your engines at wide open throttle, because nobody does. Everybody runs them in these lower RPM ranges. Idle time at the ramp, idle time in the no wake zone, trolling time while you're trolling out there, getting to a spot, anchoring up, stuff like that. You're running your engine at lower RPM, which is where the carbon buildup comes in. And that's why we tell you run the engine wide open throttle. So that way, when you do have the chance to run wide open throttle, so like say you're cruising into the inlet or wherever you're going, and you have a good 3-4 mile stretch where you can actually hit wide open throttle, then you want to hit that, because then all the carbon that you built up while you're out there trolling and putzing around and doing all these other things, that gives the engine a chance to heat up, burn off that carbon, and clean itself out. I mean, you're not prematurely wearing out the power head. It's just not possible. I mean, unless you live somewhere where you have the ability to run 6,000 RPMs everywhere you go, you're not there's just no way. It's not mathematically possible unless you live somewhere where you can run 6,000 or 100 RPMs everywhere you go. From the time you put it in at the ramp, you're able to get up on plane, do 6,000 RPM and make it to wherever you're trying to go, and then stop, shut everything off, and then boom, hop up 6,000 back. And not only that, but the water conditions also dictates a lot of your speed. I mean, by and large, if you're going offshore, there's not that many days where you actually can run constantly 6,000, 6,400, whatever your wide open is for your engine. There's not that many days that you can run that. So the thought that you're going to prematurely wear out the engine because you are running wide open, if you pull the download and you look at the actual data of how much time is spent at that top RPM range, it's going to be a lot less than you think it is. Now, if you're talking about like a race engine or a race boat, stuff like that, where you're actually using the boat for racing and you're running, as close to wide open throttle as possible, that's a whole different discussion. But for the recreational person, no, you should try and run wide open in order to, get the engine temp up, oil temp up, open up the thermostats, get water flow through the engine, burn off any carbon. It is good for the engine. By and large, 80% of the time of an engine's life is going to be spent below that range. And so that's kind of my thoughts on it and the discussion I think that could be had about running the engine wide open throttle compared to how much you really are running.
Now, if you enjoyed this clip from a full podcast episode, you can watch the full episode over here or watch another clip over here.